Welcome to the Third Take podcast, brought to you by Islington Radio and hosted by Laura McMahon. On today's podcast, we have comedian Dan Mckeon talking about a film and a book.
The first one was The Mummy.
Yes. Hang on, let's go into that first. First of all, why'd you choose it?
It just kept...
Hang on, and I mean that I'm trying to be more friendly. So
for sure, yeah.
So in that way, I mean, why'd you choose it? Not like, why, Dan?
Why would you choose that?
Yeah.
I think it was just a movie that just kept coming around in my life, where every so often I was just like, yeah, that's just like a slam dunk movie. There's just not an inch of fat on that movie. And I was just like, there's nothing...
Yeah.
It was just... I watched it... I don't even remember watching it. I probably watched it on like a kids club on holiday or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it just stuck with me. And I just think it's so much fun. And I think I went back to it years later and had that incredibly vindicating thing of like, yes, the thing I liked when I was a kid is still so good. Yeah. And it's just so much fun. And it was kind of like its own thing. Yeah. And it's just like, well, okay, look, you got scarabs, like for when you're a kid, you got bugs that crawl under your skin. Yeah. You got Brendan Fraser at his peak of his powers. Yeah. This was like pre whale. Yeah.
That was the dip for you. Tarzan was the peak.
Yeah, it was before the what do they call it? The Renaissance that happened. Yeah, he came in. And I think okay, so first when you're a kid, I think basically, and also it's big for bisexual people as well. I don't know if you know this, but
I don't
because
know.
you got Rachel Weisz looking amazing, you got Brendan Fraser looking amazing.
Oh, so you mean
everyone's just really hot?
Everyone.
Yeah, there's something for everybody in that movie.
I was like,
and it was
I completely missed that subplot.
Yeah,
no, I see.
Oh no, like as
everyone
in, like
looks
demographically,
good.
like the Dave numbers, I'll drop.
Hang on,
at least 30,000 people came out.
Fun fact about the good-looking people in that film.
Oh yeah.
The guy the guy that has tattoos on his face.
Yes.
Initially, the director said he had to be covered in tattoos, and then he said, this guy's so good looking, we're just going to do a couple of tattoos. It would be a waste to cover him up.
I like to have like mid-tattoo artists just be like, I cannot top this. My art cannot top how he looks. Exactly. We don't want to cover this up. And it's just a lot of. I think it was very evocative when you're a kid, and It's just like a really good movie. Yeah. And it's really like fun and accessible and just really like hits. And I think as much as it's not one I think that dramatically changed my life, but I remember I kept talking about it. I remember when I was a kid, because I don't know if you know, but Brendan Fraser, I'm actually wearing my shirt is actually quite similar to what he would wear.
Yeah,
dressed up as Brendan Fraser.
Good of you to do.
Well, he had...
I'll get a picture, but I'll get a picture. We don't film them because I just think either talk or look good. You don't have to do
totally.
both. But I didn't know you'd be dressed this way, and in which case,
I'm glad.
I'll add a picture.
I'm glad it is audio only because I don't own an iron at the current time, and I just rocked up.
Oh, I thought this was just Brendan Fraser in The Mummy midway.
Oh yeah,
he's been
rugged
running.
And rough.
Yeah.
And he.
Let's just be clear. Rugged is not the word. That's not the word I was going to go for.
Rugged. It was. So when I was a kid, I remember because he has this like handkerchief or like a kind of cowboy scarf, and on holiday I would wear that over like my rash vest or whatever.
Because it's an adventure film, and he's an adventurer.
Yeah, and it was just like I'm exactly him right now. Yeah, in my like Umbro rash vest going swimming and
neckerchief.
Yeah, with the neckerchief. And there's a picture of me because this is a bit of memory lane, but we had. This is really revealing what kind of. I mean, you could tell probably from my voice. We went on a holiday where they had a buffet for breakfast.
Yeah, okay.
And they did pancakes.
I don't know what that culturally from Australia. I don't know what that means. I don't know whether that's like a nice place or that's like the budget holidays or what we're saying.
Here was the challenge was that I would. They had pancakes and they had all kinds of pancakes, and every day I would try and eat more pancakes over the course of a 2-week holiday. Right. So it started with 6 and then up to 7. I think my total was 10. And there's a picture of me with like a knife and fork with like a black like cowboy bandana and like a blue rash vest. Just like, my family would just kind of watch me because it was like, and I think eventually my dad was like not wanting to stop me because he was like, it's Cool Hand Luke, he's just gonna keep going 40 eggs style. And it would just get to a point where I was just like, what do I don't know why I'm doing this. I think attention was what it probably was, but it was just like there was
like
a weird
game with yourself, right?
Yeah, there wasn't, because I wasn't a very sporty child, so I think there was something in me that was like, I have to be better at something. Right. They can beat me on the pitch, but as soon as we get back, I'm going to mass carb load
in my neckerchief.
And that was just, I really thought, it was maybe a mummy-related thing, because, there's a scene in The Mummy where he has the big sandstorm, and the mummy has a big mouth, and he's going to eat them. I think I was trying to do that with pancakes. And it was, there was a few things like that. I remember we watched The Iron Giant, and there's a bit where the Iron Giant, like, crunches a big metal thing, and goes like, and I think as kids, whenever they took us to McDonald's or something, we would do that with, like, a handful of chips, like, and there's a lot of, like, food, and it's making me sound like my parents just really did not let us. Let's eat whatever.
Just take him to the buffet and then he'll be happy.
Yeah. Did you have stuff like that as a kid with movies you watched growing up?
And we had a couple of great ones. So from Jumanji, and actually I was going to say the guy in. Well, another thing I loved about The Mummy was the cast were all like classic that era, and the guy from Jumanji that plays the huntsman is in The Mummy with just a couple of and he just has a couple. He gets wiped out pretty early, but he has a couple of lines like "We never should have been," just really like commanding, and you just go. Yes, he's here. Like everyone's here.
That's one of the best bits when is that when they're like they've all stolen the different stuff
before everything's gonna
because there's this great bit when the guy has no eyes and he's taken his eyes and tongue and he's just really sad obviously because
his life's not going to be the same anymore,
but then he can't see that it's the mummy and actually Imhotep, sorry, his name's Imhotep, that felt so bad. He's just the Imhotep mummy.
But we did, so me and my sisters had a couple of things like that, and one was like weird that we were talking about pancakes before. One, there was an episode of Sabrina where it talked about like there was something about pancakes and she couldn't stop eating all the pancakes. There's literally an episode like that, and it was like there was a line from that we used to always say to each other, which was like boyfriends will cancel plans, friends will cancel plans, pancakes never cancel. And it's just like so stupid.
That's on like a knitted. That's on like a sewn pillow now.
Yeah, I bet it is like a really sad pillow.
It's just a pancake addict's flower.
But there was another one which was in Jumanji. He said there's a line where he says, "Little rain never hurt anyone," and then the other guy goes, "Yeah, but a lot can kill you."
Yeah, that was that was one of those cool. There's something in just the way he says that, because like Robin Williams was.
It's all delivery. Isn't it?
And he never always was like. I mean, I guess he is a cool guy just because of virtue of who he is, but he never had like the sick ass like rock star lines. There's a line like that as well in The Mummy that Brendan Fraser says where they're gambling, and they go like, "Did you gamble, Rick?" And he's like, "Only with my life." And I was like, and I remember as a kid being like, "That's the coolest."
What you were saying before about the film being just like glorious fun. There was like Roger Ebert, who's like a big film critic at the time, said, "I can't make any argument for this film in terms of like cinematography or art form except that it's just great from start to finish. Like there is no like, oh, this is and you did it there and you're a visionary in this." It's just like, yes, we're all having fun, right? And that's why it keeps going.
It just hits. I think that's why it's got so endearing, because there's the sacrilegious Tom Cruise The Mummy that came out like in 2019 or something. Do you know about that?
It hadn't crossed my path.
I haven't seen it,
but hang on. But I also know that Tom Cruise was up for the initial role.
Was he?
So maybe that was the ultimate revenge.
Tom Cruise, he's too evil behind the eyes for that role. I think he's not endearing enough. I don't think. I feel it would be too scary. Like you'd believe that he could kill the mummy if he was in that movie. I think. But it got blowback because basically it was so embarrassing. Basically, what they wanted to do was launch what they called the Dooku.
Okay.
DUCU, which was the Dark Universe Cinematic Universe.
So an original idea and nothing to do with Marvel.
It wasn't a Marvel thing, but it was like Marvel structured of like they have all the horror.
Yeah. It was their Walmart.
Exactly. But they had all these ideas for doing like Jekyll and Hyde and the Mummy and the Invisible Man in the same universe, and then the Mummy just tanked. So I think the whole studio was just like, we never wanted to do that. Actually, we actually wanted to move straight on.
Actually, when the Mummy came out, so basically they tried to make it in the 1980s, and they were like, we're going to make this like it's going to be like a horror film or whatever. And then they got like such a little budget from Universal that they were like, okay, no. So they brought in another writer, and then that didn't work. And then it kept not working. And then they brought in a third writer, and the third writer, they didn't tell about the two failed attempts. And the third writer wrote essentially the same plot as the first writer. And it kept on going for years and years and years.
Why didn't they tell him the plot that the other two?
I don't know.
How could that help?
But maybe they would. Maybe they didn't want to be like, hey, this this keeps failing. They were just like, hey, we've got this idea about this story, because there's a 1932 film, The Mummy, which is what it's not copied off. But anyway, so he comes up with the same idea, and it keeps bouncing around, not working. And then eventually they repitch it like 20 years later or 15. I can't do maths. This isn't a maths podcast.
It's crazy how much they're in development. Yeah, the 20 years.
Right. And so then what happened was Universal needed a hit, because they just released Babe, Pig in the City, and it hadn't gotten what they...
Was that not a hit at the time?
I guess not.
Wow.
So...
Listen, guys, a movie about a pig lost in the city. It is not hitting crowds where they want to hear hit.
Exactly.
We need a big... We need something more original.
Else. Yeah.
All these writers we hire keep writing the same goddamn thing.
And so then, basically, after that, they were like, we need a hit. And then they came in with this new idea, and whoever was in charge of Universal, it had just changed. So instead of being like, hey, remember this film we keep trying to pitch you and it keeps not working, they were just like, new idea about a mummy, 1932 film,
good,
and then it kind of like went from there.
Okay, that's interesting. I actually didn't know that. That's so cool. I do like the idea of like, it's like the opposite of like 1,000 monkeys will write Shakespeare, of like you keep writing this, like keep writing the same fucking thing. This is really annoying.
Hang on, what is this a known thing? 1,000 monkeys write Shakespeare?
A philosophy thing of like, if you had 1,000 monkeys hitting a typewriter randomly, at some point they will all write the complete works of Shakespeare, just because of the randomness of words.
Okay.
But they have like the opposite thing of we hiring one guy and he keeps writing the exact same story. But also, I think to that point though, that it was a hit because the talent in that movie is like, would slightly slept on before, it kind of not made all their careers, but you got John Hannah, you got Rachel Weisz, and you got Brendan Fraser, and they weren't, I don't know much about their careers, but they were not big deals. And then John Hannah's great. I remember wanting to be, or relating more to John Hannah's character.
Which one's he again?
He's the brother.
He's
just always
funny.
Messing up and like
kind of faffy, just awkward
faffy.
In the corner all the time, like
he's faff. I tell you what, that whole he's faffing around,
faffy.
And you got Omid Djalili as well, doing some great,
very funny,
very good, like. You know, that I think like there's real talent in doing the guy who has like 3 funny lines, and it's just like kind of, he's farting around, John Hannah's faffing around, they bump up against each other every now and again.
It's perfect, isn't it? And also a lot of it, I watched it yesterday, and at the end when I said to my friend, I said I've just watched it, he said again couldn't put it together as like, oh, it's like The Godfather, you must see it. It's just like, it is fun, and that's what it is. But
it's like, this is just great.
Yeah,
like, it's just like everything. I'm picking up everything.
The style is, it's like pure entertainment, and then that gives Brendan Fraser this kind of bounce, and it's all alive the whole time. And
there's a lot of really iconic lines. I'm resisting the urge to quote all of them because I think it's it will just be so boring. But like,
line what you just start doing a reenactment. And I'm like, that was like a director's commentary, except not.
Just like. If you imagine director's commentary, like, I love that line. Let me say it again. It's just like, as you're watching it.
Oh my god, because that's what a director's commentary would actually be. You'd be watching it with them, and they'd go, "This bit's really good."
I don't know. I got into a big thing of. I don't listen to a lot of directors' commentaries, but I really love the show Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch on YouTube and half the time they're just like, he's great. I love him. He's just a great guy. He's really brought it. He was a really good actor. I have nothing else to say, but great guy. And and it's just like, come on,
especially because for DVD special, like now it feels like, okay, when people want to do a podcast and rehash it 20 years later, like there's one on One Tree Hill where they just talk through the episodes. That's quite interesting because they're usually like, this man was harassing me, and then you're watching the scene of them like flirt with some man, and it's like, I wasn't speaking to him, so he wrote himself into the scene. Like that's wild because it's like such a new thing. But
One Tree Hill, I have such a manic memory of, because when I was it was coming out. I don't know if it was out on TV or if it was reruns, but I had to go to school at 6 a.m. And it was the only thing on TV.
Right.
This is way back before streaming.
I like,
this is on like
I like that ratings wise they were like 6 a.m. Chad Michael Murray.
It's like I'll tell you what, at 6 a.m. you're like, okay, I like this. Feeling very soothed right now by this man's face.
Yeah.
And but I would watch that, and I would watch like in a slight stupor, just at breakfast, having like toast or whatever, watch it. And I got so I made it through like 8 seasons, like, all through year 7, just watching One Tree Hill in this sort of deranged, and then they changed it to, they started running 2.5 Men at 6 a.m.
That's not the same vibe.
I know, and I was just like, and then, but I had this weird thing like, is this good? Is this actually really a good show? And then later, I would be like gasping at every twist on One Tree Hill and everything.
It's really emotional. It's like Grey's Anatomy in the way that it's edited, and that you're just like, Yeah, I'm crying.
Yeah. Because also the thing is that they up the stakes of the melodrama so much. I remember there's one season. I don't care about spoilers. We'll talk about this where like there's some gang guy. I think because they were really running out of ideas by like season 4 or whatever. There's some gang guy like tries to get Chad Michael Murray, and then I think Chad Michael Murray runs over him, and then his dad pulls up because he's just in the area for some other reason, and then he's like, no. Run away, son, and then he pretends that he was driving and he takes over here. And I remember there's like so much has happened in like the space of like 2 minutes. It was like that kind of TV. It was like, how could we set up loads for us to do?
Yeah, they've really taken that thing of, when someone's like, the episode builds to this point, and then in a writer's room someone says, yeah, but what if that was the opening scene? And it's like obviously one guy got into the writer's room by asking that question, and then throughout the whole of the writing of One Tree Hill, just every time someone had an idea was just like, yeah, but what if that was a minute instead? And they were just like, oh no.
He just like velocity. He was like faster.
Yeah, they had to keep one-upping it. What if we get cancelled after a series? And then when it went for 25 years or however long it went, it was just like, oh no.
It's quite nice when shows do that, where it's just like, we might not come back, so let's just leave it all out on the court, baby. What do you got? I would actually quite enjoy, listening to because it looks gorgeous as well. The Mummy, I know it's like, it is just fun, but it looks like just the right amount of like easy on the eyes and aesthetically pleasing. You've got like the desert and everything. I watched a movie called The Covenant recently, which is this really bad Guy Ritchie movie. Okay. And it's set in I guess Afghanistan, because it's like a war movie, and the desert looks like shit. And I was just watching it, just like, how do you make the desert? Like, that's the desert. That's like the cinema place.
Yeah, the cinema place. Well, interestingly, The Mummy was filmed in Marrakesh.
Oh, lovely.
Marrakesh, and the director didn't tell the actors that this is wild. The director didn't tell the actors that they had to take out kidnapping insurance on the actors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
And he told them on the last day of shooting.
That's so
he was
funny.
like, by the way. And also, this is such a that when people are like, yeah, you couldn't make a film like that anymore. You literally couldn't, in the sense that the cast were all suffering from dehydration, and then people had to get cast members had to get airlifted out from getting like stings and bug bites.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like kind of wild.
That is pretty nuts. Like I've heard, you always hear like nightmare shoots.
You think after one person being airlifted out, you'd be like, should we stop with this kind of thing?
But just look how beautiful this man is in this light. We have to keep filming it. Don't put an inch more tattoo on that guy, please.
Oh, and actually on that, the Brendan Fraser, the scene where he's being hanged.
Yes, yeah. Pretty wild scene, actually. That is
super,
movie.
Right? Super wild. And I know. But it seems upbeat because he like smiles at the start, at the end.
Yeah.
In the filming of that, apparently the director said to him, just his only instructions were like, "Look good, don't die." And then they went to shoot.
Did they do that?
Because apparently Brendan Fraser lost consciousness and suffocated, and they had to resuscitate him on the set.
Did they have like a... That's... No.
Yes.
Because you watch... In that movie, you really feel... It's like quite a dramatic, like... I don't know, historically accurate
and it was like... Yeah. And also you... historically accurate hanging.
It really like hits you. Feel like, oh, that's tough. Yeah. And then...
So...
Did he have a neck brace or something?
I don't know. I only know that he had to be resuscitated. And the instructions before they started filming were, look good, don't die.
No one...
And that's like...
No wonder he took a breather from Hollywood, man. He just had it rough from the get-go. He can't catch a break.
Yeah, but also... It'd just be you and a bunch of your friends, you and cast and crew in the desert, and it'd be like, let's just go. Like, it's such a like, there'd be no. I know it's not a good thing, but you'd just never be able to get away with that.
No,
now,
completely,
right?
yeah.
You couldn't.
Could you imagine if he just gets resuscitated and he has been kidnapped? That would be the worst part of it. It was just like, God damn it.
Yeah,
just got me.
But even stuff like the bit where like she's kind of drunk and she's like trying to kiss him, like. If you were writing that now, you'd be like, well, this isn't appropriate. Like, whereas like at the time of watching, even yesterday when I was watching it, I was like, just kiss.
Well, the chemistry, I don't know if it's the chemistry or something between them. They're just vibing. They're just the energy. Like, there's the scene where he's all, he gets shaved and he comes on the boat.
Yeah.
And she sees him and he's looking
good.
Divine. He's looking amazing. Yeah, and he's just like, you're just like, oh yeah, she's talking right for that. Like,
he's just like,
you just kind of feel it's and he plays that like kind of gruff but low. He just hits there's something really I don't know, unthreatening about him in that role. Like, it's a very, like you said before, like bouncy and kind of, even though very protective as well.
Yeah, like what he did with Tarzan, except this time it's like, this time he's smart too.
Yeah, it's like,
unstoppable.
I don't know, there was just something, and I don't know what he's going to do now, because I never, you know, he seems like such a different person now, because for all the reasons, really. Because I remember even watching, I really loved Brendan. I'm a big Brendan. I'll go to the mat defending Brendan Fraser. But I watched like Journey to the Center of the Earth that he's in.
That's like, an adventure film, isn't
it? It's like it was the peak of, I don't even remember when they tried to make 3D movies happen, and they were just like everything, like, so he would turn around with like a tape measure and it comes right out. He's like, whoa! And like, hey kids, it's going out. And like Spy Kids 3D, where they have literally a sign that goes like, put your glasses on now, or whatever, and it'll be this whole... And I just have such a
But that was such a clever thing, because if people were stopped buying tickets to cinemas, that was such a thing to be like, well, you can't get this at home, right? Like, it was such a clever, well, it hoped to be a clever way of reviving cinema.
Yeah, I think it would have been... I think there was a time when, after that, they stopped making it like a gimmick, but then they just said, oh yeah, everything's 3D, which was not the case, and it was literally just, if you didn't wear the glasses you couldn't see it, and it was just this weird kind of like, I think that was the misstep that put everyone off.
And well, not just that, also like cinema can be a date thing a lot of the time. Not all the time, great to go by yourself, but sometimes it's a date thing.
Yeah, sure.
And then what, you're gonna put on these RoboCop glasses in like the first minute? It's just like, come on,
just clunking into each other. Yeah.
So whatever. Another fun fact about The Mummy,
please,
which you may or may not know. The opening, that scene that's got Rachel Weisz in the library and all of the books fall down and it's like a domino effect. They filmed that all in one take.
Hell yeah.
Once. And if they had to do it again, it would have like taken a whole nother day, obviously, to set it up.
Yeah, that's so cool.
You couldn't just CGI.
Yeah.
So they had to be like...
These days, they just use AI for all those books.
But they would have had to do... And to not even... For it to not even be like the Titanic, whereas a mini Titanic just in a little sink. Yeah. This was just like... We're doing this, right? What a
literally,
thrill.
yeah. It's not a hot take. Actually, it's more of a third take. But the thing of like a real physical stunt thing like that makes such a difference, especially in like a comedy thing like that, which is kind of walking on the ladder and stuff, and like it really hits. And I think of just knowing, I don't know what it is about what they were trying to cleave to. I imagine maybe you've read more about it, but like they were just capturing this real kind of schlocky in a good way, where it's like, and also all the magic stuff. I feel like a lot of movies now feel the need to be like super nerdy or like super like, here's the lore of this film. This movie was like, there's a mummy, he's awake now, and he's stealing people's eyes, and then you have to just like go from there. And, like,
and actually, it was like this thing of being like, so when they pitched it a bunch of different times, first it was like, we want it to be like a thriller, and then we want it to be a horror, and then we want it to be this, and then they just went, okay, actually we need something that has all of these things, but we want to play up the romance, we want to play up the comedy, and as such, when the people were making the like AI version, when people were making the version of the, what was it called, CGI, when they were making the CGI mummy, they actually said to the like animators, they were like, we don't want any gore. The point of this film isn't going to be to gross people out. It's going to be like, here's an adventure film. Let's do it. Right?
It's very like it feels very in like the whole Indiana Jones tradition of it, of like just these weird that are very captivating, and you have these set pieces that do have those kind of horror elements, and like and the mummy is genuinely scary, like, especially when you watch it. It was like of the actual like creature, and when he's like screaming and stuff. There's also a great bit, which is one of my favorite things, where I think something that captures what you're talking about with the comedy and the blending of everything is the mummy is coming after Rachel Weisz, and then Brendan Fraser kind of runs in and saves her, or like kind of, oh, come on, we got to get out of here, and then sees them and is like, oh, and then the mummy's like, ah! And does this horrible like jaw-breaking roar, and then Brendan Fraser goes like, ah, and then just shoots him in the face. And I remember it's such a I love the things that happen in horror where it's like, no, you can, whatever this kind of eldritch horror, you can just shoot it in the face. Like, you can, like,
exactly.
There's like, I think there's a bit at the end. Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, what are you saying?
Just there's a bit at the end of it, the movie, where one of the kids is just like, listen, I'm gonna pick up a pole and beat the shit out of this clown.
Exactly.
And then something was just like, oh, that's so cathartic. Like, I just really like the idea that, you can just get up and hit this thing until it stops chasing you.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So basically then as well, the other thing that they had to do was they wanted to keep it. But I think that library thing at the start sets the whole film up in that sense.
Oh, completely.
Because it's so like, this is like a Buster Keaton stunt. And it's like, we're here to have fun. We're not here to be like, this is so gory, right? And actually, the white nightgown that Evelyn, which is Rachel Weisz's character, wore when the ship was attacked became transparent when it got wet, and it had to be digitally painted white during post-production so the film could keep its PG rating.
Wow. Yeah.
So they were really like, this is a fun film. This isn't going to be this.
Yeah.
I've got another fact about the film, which is obscure.
Please, keep going. I didn't know any of. I would literally class this as one of my favorite movies, and I didn't know any of this. That's how easily pleased I am. I don't need to know anything more. It's great.
So the character of Benny.
Yes, Benny's with the fez.
Yes, he's shown at one point with a sack full of gold. When he's trying to pillage, and he's trying to load it onto the camel. He pulls the reins of the camel, and the camel doesn't budge. And they just had to keep that shot because no matter how hard they tried to film, for some reason all the camels hated Kevin O'Connor, right? It's like, it was just like a problem. They were just like, there's nothing we can do about this. We just have to have it happen this way.
That's so funny. I love that. There was isn't there a similar? It's kind of the opposite thing of, I think, on Lord of the Rings they had Viggo Mortensen really loved his horse, and I think bought the horse afterwards.
Oh,
wow. They had such a connection. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
that's really sweet.
As far as like creatures that you ride in movies, there's really they either love or hate you. Yeah.
Okay, and then I've got another one, which is you may or may not. I don't know. This could be rumor, but who knows? Where is it? Okay. So according to the director, Stephen Sommers, Universal phoned him the morning after the movie was released and said, "We need another one." Oh.
And you know what? They did not learn the lessons of practical effects. Have you seen The Mummy Returns?
I haven't,
seen
but
the Rock in that movie?
The first Mummy had so much money spent for CGI.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and at the time it was quite difficult to do. So they used like the sandstorms, they used like technology they used for the film Twister, and they had just like a mix of real things and fake things throughout.
Was it that thing of, in like old Disney movies, they used to just repeat frames in different movies? So it was kind of the same thing with the Twister thing, where it's like, we got this shot from Twister, we just got this effect from Twister, we'll just throw that in there, put his face on it, and we'll be golden.
I guess you had to build effects in you had to build a model world or whatever, and the program was called like Alias, which was, I guess, the like historical version of After Effects.
Okay, cool.
And it was like, so they would have had to build it whatever, in the same way that I guess you would film like a feather and then be like, well, now it's a tree. I don't know.
Something,
so they were just like, just give us the stems for this. And actually, another repeat that they used was the mummy in the opening scene before he gets mummified.
Yes.
He's wearing a cape, and they had a problem of, like, first of all, every time they had the wind machine, it would blow up and reveal his butt. Yeah.
That's so funny. As if someone wears a cape to cover their arse.
And it's also just like, just put him in some, like,
some pants. You don't have to edit out the cape.
Like, if you were in costume department, I think I would just be like, hey, can I get this? Oh, I've got another fact for you.
Oh, please. Yeah. Just rattle through them. Yeah. I want
to lots of CGI was used. However, many scenes, such as the one where Evelyn is covered in rats and locusts, were real.
Really? Oh, those are real creatures? Yeah. Oh, man.
Not the ones that are like those like, digital scorpion.
Yeah. Oh, no, the scarabs, yeah.
But...
this is how much big a fan I am. I went to Universal Studios on holiday. Yeah. And I went on the Mummy ride.
Really?
It's amazing. Is it? But it's a bit silly because they just go like... The mummy has risen again, and it's just like, oh no, and all these scarabs come out and get you. But just to go back with the CGI thing, because in The Mummy Returns they have this big thing of, it's a different mummy played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Wait, Dwayne is the mummy, or Dwayne's
he is the new? Well, they kind of. Imhotep rises again, but then it's I can't. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. But there's another.
Do you know what? That's exactly what they said when they were writing it and pitching it as well.
They like, just get him. We need the Rock in this, all right? Because it was his first acting role.
Oh, right.
And it ends with him. I hope you don't mind spoilers. No. It ends with The Rock, and I can't remember when it came out. When did this movie come out? Like 1999?
1999, yeah.
So this one must have been, 2001, 2002, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know. But they end it
soon
with...
enough that people hadn't forgotten, but not long enough to take their time and do well on it.
Yes, literally.
Prediction.
And the Rock plays the Scorpion King, who's like this great big evil guy, and but when the final thing is Brendan Fraser and Imhotep, the bully guy, they have to fight the Rock, but he's been edited into like a scorpion's body, so he's got like this big tail, but it looks like literally like a video game, and it's enough to completely take you out of it, and and it was a big, because then I was so deep in the paint on this, man. I was like, I watched after that The Scorpion King, which was a spin-off movie, which was The Rock, basically kind of as like a Conan the Barbarian type, and it's like way better than it should be. It's like one of those weird ones where I just kind of stumbled upon. It was probably playing on like ITV2 or something.
Hang on, do you mean after they made the second Mummy, someone else was like, watched the Mummy with him as a scorpion and was like, or we could make the movie properly as a different name.
Can he just be a human? Because like he has this backstory where he's this kind of tragic king or something, and it's like, I think the Scorpion King was about him before that or something. But really... Yeah. Again, like, and I don't love The Rock, but like he is at the peak of his powers, I think, in that, because he's still got some of that like wrestler bravado, and he's just being used super well, and like so yeah, I know my lore. I know the Mummy lore.
And then they made a couple more. Hang on.
They made the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Yeah, I remember this.
Have you ever seen the... Oh, yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, big time.
Have you...
But they didn't get Rachel Weisz for the third one. She stepped out. And I don't know who the actress is that replaced her, but it just... Hang on, it doesn't hit.
She did the second one.
She did the second one,
Is
yeah.
Brendan Fraser
they all come back in the second one. Yeah, they all come back for the second one. Brendan Fraser's in the third one, too.
That's good, even though he almost died in the first one.
Yeah, he was just like, let's do it again. What? How am I getting shot? Getting hung, drawn, and quartered this time. Yeah. He really, but like, so the and it's kind of like, I think The Mummy Returns is basically just the same but bigger, and it's like this big chase across. Although I will say The Mummy Returns is a really weak. Like, I think if I saw the trailer for that after seeing The Mummy, I'd be like, so he's just like back again. He's just like the same guy.
Yeah, because they would have wrapped everything up being like, we're done, and then he would have been like, oh, you guys, like, just. And there's always a guy. It's like a guy or girl. Women are allowed jobs now as well. Yeah. But there's always a guy that's like, well, you know, if they're like, so how could we set up a new story where it's this, and this, and then eventually everyone just goes, yeah, he just woke up again.
Yeah, he's back. It's the same guy.
It's quite sad, though, when the moment where he's like, the end where it's just like, oh, no. Like, you just go, you didn't deserve this.
Yeah, completely. And there's a bit, there's actually, they reference it in the third one, I think. So in the third one, the story is that they have a kid who's like a troubled adult, and he's getting into his own treasure hunting, I guess. It's a very weird world they built.
The Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
His son is like, just turned 18 or 20 or something, and he's like
the classic
a loose
sequel.
cannon. Yeah. It's really, it's literally like not Meet the Fockers, but just like the classic, like, okay, they were together, now they have a kid, and there's a bit where he's like, I know about mummy killing, and they're having this argument on this mountain, and then the son's like, you killed one mummy, Dad, and then Brendan Fraser's like, no, same mummy twice, and it's like actually it's probably the best line in the movie, because the rest of it's a little. Yeah.
And that line in The Mummy where he goes, you know, the whoever the guy is, where he jumps off and he's like, you stay here, I'll be right back on the boat. That was ad-libbed, because on the day of shooting, the director Stephen Sommers was like, oh, we never wrote in a way for him to get off the boat. So they were just like, do this. And then the other line that they made up on the spot was where the guy goes, please, no, I have children. And he goes,
That's one of my favorite lines of the whole thing.
And that recording that you see of it is him saying it in the moment. And you even see like the kind of authentic reaction from the Brendan Fraser character being like, no, you don't.
Also, the opposite of improv, by the way. He literally said, no, stop. Like, just like...
Especially though, imagine though, if he was just imagine if he was a more key role and you had to know whether he had kids or not, and then this actor just starts like changing the script and the thing.
That was that's a great line. That's one of the funniest lines in the movie, actually, I think. Yeah.
Well, that was...
For obvious reasons, probably. But I think... there is a certain amount of and I don't want to be all. This will sound like such nostalgia brain, like old man yells at cloud, but like there's so much like
old man. Wait, what?
Like as in like such a like because they don't make they don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah.
But there is a certain like lack of pretension in that movie where it is. It's I think we kind of covered like it's just it is pure such an adventure movie and so and I think you I guess just movies like I saw. Again, with my roommates, they would also watch a lot of bad movies as well, and they would get obsessed with. They'd always throw on like a ton of Marvel movies, and I would just step in and be like, "Oh man, I'm really like I love the Marvel movies when they were coming out, but I watched the more recent ones, and I was just like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, this is like not fun. This is really draining to keep track of all this."
And that film, like you just go, you could watch it, you could absolutely watch it through the lens of being like, oh well, classic. The man has to show her around, and she's a librarian, and she doesn't know any. Oh, but she needs his protection. But when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, just kiss.
Yeah, no, totally. But also because they're like on an equal playing field. There's a weird, I don't know. There's something in how they articulate it, which is really, and I think something in their, I want to say their chemistry because I feel like that's what it all comes down to. Yeah. But it is very like he has this weird amount of like. Respect for her or something, or like there's this kind of they do need each other. Like there's just a very, which I think makes it hotter, basically, because they're not like it's not like because you know when you watch an Indiana Jones movie and he like whips, like pulls her in or whatever.
It's so just like or James Bond where it's like it'll be a next girl in the next film. It's just like now this one's this.
James Bond's crazy, man, because he'll do. There's some James Bond, some James Bond clips where he's like tricks her into like it's like oh my god, that's like
going like oh no.
It's very like, but that one like it was a very. I think again it comes down to Brendan Fraser. It's very unthreatening and very like It feels very natural, which I think is hard to do in a movie like that to make it feel like a real romance. But I always talk about this again whenever we watch rom-coms and stuff. In my head, I'm like, if they don't have chemistry, don't do it. Like, it doesn't work unless you really want to. Unless you can really picture them together.
Have you got any examples of rom-coms where they don't have chemistry? I'm sure I do, but I can't think of any.
Recently, there was one with it was Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon.
Okay.
And I think they are friends or something, but the whole premise of the movie is that they're not together and they show all these like split screen phone conversations and there's just nothing there and you're just like they're just like two wooden boards rubbing up against each other. It's just not very it's not like what you're in it for.
I watched something on Netflix that was like I can't remember what it was. It was like Die Hard Christmas or something. But not Die Hard. It was like Christmas Dies Hard or something. And it was just like I was like Die Hard. It's not that romantic at all. I mean, no, this film was it was a rom-com. It was surrounding Christmas and it was like everything by numbers. It was now they'll see each other and now they're here and oh no, now she's got food poisoning and it was just like I can't, like there's nothing.
It's just it's very like I'm trying to think of the one which was the best chemistry. I'm trying to think. I think the Mark Ruffalo at 13 going on 30, which is already an insane movie.
Right, that's
but
perfect.
Like that's really good. But then I think
And Harry Met Sally is the classic.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. That's such a nice. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, "This is such a nice version of New York." It's like with Notting Hill as well because I only saw that recently, and I think for both of them, I got surprised like, "Oh, this is such like a straight up and down romance." Yeah. As funny as it is, but you're kind of buying into it for that slightly. Very like old Hollywood thing of like you kind of just want to watch them walk through a park.
It is the same with when Harry Met Sally. At the end, you're not like. Get it together. You're like, well, this has been a lovely friendship.
It's just like it's so it's just like there's something in that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I know enough about movies. But
I don't think I know enough about movies.
I've been fighting.
Hang on. Something happens on this podcast where every guest at some point says something as if they think that if they say something wrong, I'm going to be like, no. And it's like, I know like I can be mean for fun.
Yeah. That would be so funny if you suddenly just like I thought the director made a good choice. Like, I'll stop you there. What do you know? What do you know about filmcraft? What do you know about it? Like, just really not. Stephen Sommers, by the way, the rest of his career, I remember because I was interested. I remember Googling it one time.
His career might still be going. The rest of his career. How dare you? Oh yeah, I am doing exactly what I just said I wouldn't do. Okay.
Hang on, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? He did the Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing, which on paper sounds really should be the same vibe, but just with a different aesthetic. Yeah. But it is such a we watched it. We do these. Me and some friends of mine did this really very we would just watch like 2 movies one day, and there would be this random thing, and we just had to stop because it was so noisy. It was like so fast and so noisy.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we ever had it being like this is so much noise. I like finally understood what my dad was saying when we'd watch SpongeBob as a kid, and just be like, please stop.
Stop.
It's just too much
give me
noise.
A minute. Yeah.
But so he never, and that was a very CG. I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, it might be worth. I might actually give it a quick Google of what other films he does, because he maybe just pulled it out the bag of like what. That
also,
was maybe just
it's
like
very difficult if you had a film that was a hit to not be like, what are the ingredients of a film? Charismatic lead, adventure, this, and this. And actually, I would say that the too much noise thing. There's a really good video essay online about Martin Scorsese and his use of silence.
Oh,
and it's like about
is that in the movie Silence or
no. But that would have been also a great video essay to watch. No, his use of silence in film. So like stuff building and stuff being silent and stuff like you know that bit in Goodfellas where it's like, how am I funny? How am I funny? And how it.
When I really agree with the point, I remember things. I go like,
but it's like how he completely makes it like has to be like peaks and troughs. Otherwise, it's just like heavy the whole film.
Yeah, completely.
And some of them are where it's just like, oh no, I'm watching some kind of video game that I can't pause.
Oh yeah, completely. It's very like. There's a big thing in that. Like, I don't know, because I'm always fascinated by, and I mean, we have all the equipment now, we could find out, but like, I have no idea how sound works in that specific a way, where it's like you can get that much silence on a thing. Yeah. And like, you have it a bit with, did you ever see the movie Boiling Point?
No.
It's basically about this like one shot restaurant that's manic and everything is like, everyone's having all the drama all the time, but like the way there's not a lot of background music, and the music changes like when they go through to the main bit of the restaurant or whatever, and it's so like there's just something in when it's got that much like velocity and there's just no other sound. You're like, oh my god, this is really zeroed in. What
were you saying, Stephen Sommers?
Stephen Sommers has not made a movie since 2009, it seems, which was G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Oh wow, that sounds like a similar vein, doesn't it? You know, they say people don't make different films; they make the same film over and over again.
I'm trying.
He's been chasing the ghost of. He's in some ways he's almost become parallel. He's become Brendan Fraser, where he's chasing the mummy of his own. Old film. Just kidding.
Imitate Life,
just kidding. He's so rich that he doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah, he's just chilling. Like... he went on a Stephen Summer. You know what I mean? He just went off.
Well done.
That was a weird. That's just I give incremental feedback on every line we had. But I remember because when
well done. That was good wordplay. I noticed.
Do you remember there was a really funny when Brendan Fraser was kind of. In the Oscar press junket stuff, they had a real. I think it was very patronizing because I think interviews had a hard time of like he hasn't worked in Hollywood for like 10 years, so they would say like, so
how have you been?
Would you come back for a Mummy 4 or whatever? And just like they're not. You sort of would say like they're not going to make a Mummy 4. What are you talking about? No one's going to watch. And they would just be very like because obviously he's had a very. It was very. I never watched again. I didn't even see the movie, but it was nice to see him get his flowers because he was like he had a rough time. Did you know about like why he got ousted? It's not that fun to talk about. Basically, he was harassed by a producer at a party, and then he spoke out about it, and they just iced him out, and that's why he like didn't work in those kind of movies for ages. And then so that was why it was quite validating because there was clips of him on like podcasts and stuff where he clearly is a very in touch with his emotions guy and a very earnest guy. And there's a bit where this one interview is like we're all rooting for you, and he gets like quite teary and like that kind of, and it was quite. And it was nice for a while, but then at some point it became this kind of cue is like, and then Brendan tearfully hold back all your emotions and get through these speeches and stuff. And you can see it when he has it. It's really so that was very. I think for when you grow up watching someone who's such a larger than life figure, and have that was really nice. And I got it was quite a sweet attachment. And he's in the new Scorsese movie as well. Did you see? He's in The Killers of the Flower Moon.
Moon.
3 hours or something. Though. I don't know if I got the time. It's no 90-minute jourrite that is 1999's The Mummy.
We don't know. Scorsese might have taken a twist and a turn and been like just pure joy. I doubt it.
That was we had this thing where when Barbenheimer was happening, I wanted to see Oppenheimer, and then I was trying to we should do both, we'll do it in one day. And then I was like, I'm not.
It's too many emotions.
3 hours, man. It sounds like broccoli movie.
Wait, as in As in, like, the concept of broccoli as a movie, or you mean like there's a movie called Broccoli?
No, it was like like it was like as a movie, it was like eating broccoli.
Yes, okay, that's
like,
what I
it's
thought
good
you meant.
for you
yeah,
to
yeah.
learn.
I thought there was like a film that I didn't know, and I was like, oh.
No, I don't know. Yeah. There probably is a movie called Broccoli, but like
sure, yeah.
But the of just having to sit through, because also it's a weirdly. Is kind of that's a great movie because it is kind of boring. Like the subject matter is really quite dreary, but like they rattle through it, and it's like reading his Wikipedia or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't know that.
And tell me about. Do you want to tell me about a book you've read?
Tell you about a book that had the most. There was a few books that I think had a really big resonance with me. I remember reading Sula by Toni Morrison was a big one. And then there was also 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. And that one really hit because I think it was the first time. Basically, it's about, spoiler, it's about 3 women. But the way it was written was this...
it's like being like Animal Farm. It's about a farm. It's just like, it could have not.
That was the thing with actually, just such a tangent. But we had a thing with, when I watched Barbie and then watched Oppenheimer, I came out both and like, I'll tell you what, both movies pretty much end by being like, love them or hate them. That was Barbie. That was about Barbie. I was like, that was Oppenheimer. Yeah, there's nothing else to say. He was Oppenheimer. But
he was Oppenheimer.
He certainly was Oppenheimer. Whatever you think of him, he was that guy.
That was him.
Yeah. But it's basically about these 3 different women in America, and and they were based on people that the writer had lived with and known in these places, and it's different relationships with sexuality and repression and stuff. I think there's one character who she has some kind of neuro disease or something where her body like aches, and then when she has sex, it actually like is a balm that like makes a balm, or like makes her body not have like suffer from this like nerve system damage thing. And then there's another woman who she's a restaurateur, and then she starts having an open relationship with her husband, where like her husband was really into the idea of her sleeping with other people, but there's this kind of weird hierarchy thing of she was doing it for him, and then they had like real set rules that happen with it and stuff. Yeah. And then there's another one which is quite a raw read. Then the other one is about a girl who it's sorry. It really hits because it's basically about her getting groomed by this professor. Right. But it's all told from her perspective, so you see her.
Oh, so you can feel her being excited and
she's like, I can't believe it's like a secret thing, and he told me not to tell anybody, and all this stuff. And you just feel so like your heart just breaks. And I remember that's the story it opens with. It kind of jumps between the 3, and that's the story it opens with. And it's just it was such a it's one of those things where it's such
strapped
a vulnerable
into a roller
read,
coaster. Yeah.
And you're so like just every rise and fall, you're like, holy shit, what's good? Like it's like it almost plays out like a thriller.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a thriller, I suppose. Yeah. But like it's very it's got that thing of which I think is always good, where it's very direct in how it's written. It's very like personable, and just also so like you can just feel the thing and the meaning of all the characters. And there's no like none of it's written like, oh, this is good, this is bad. It's just like these very nuanced relationships with sex and sexuality. And like I just remember like I just thought it was literally like I think it was on. This is again just reveal myself that I'm just becoming my mom. Of like it's very much like I don't know if it was on Reese Witherspoon's like books to read or whatever, but she's almost certainly making it as we speak. She's filming.
She's a film.
She's out in the desert doing a CGI.
Being, look good, don't die.
And it was just so like it was just one of those where I picked it up. I was like, oh my god, like I just didn't want to stop reading it, and it was so disarming and just so like just makes the floor drop out from under you. So I remember that was probably the last book.
You're strapped in and you're stuck in it.
Yeah, and it was the last book that really I think hit
knocked
that way. And was really like I was telling everyone about this book, and people were saying like I'm gonna get a present for somebody. I was like, you should get 3 Women by listening to that. It's
really difficult when you find something like that where you're just like, this has me, and I have to have more people like reading it, and they're just like, I don't know, because a book is that's a lot. Like a film, it's like, okay, 2 hours, when have I got that? But like a book, it's like you have to commit to this.
Oh yeah,
you know the way that it's written, what you're talking about, where you're kind of strapped in that way. I remember reading Room. Have you read Room? It's by Emma.
No,
Donoghue.
I've seen the movie.
Exactly the same one with I can't remember her name, the Marvel.
Brie Larson.
Yeah, exactly, with Brie Larson. And but the book is written from the child's perspective. And so you've got this, as you start reading, you're just like, what is this? And then you're like, oh no, and it hits you. But the most interesting example of that happening in literature is there's a really good podcast called the Lolita podcast, and
I love that's like one of my favorite podcasts ever.
Have you listened to it? Wild, right?
Yeah. I can't. Who's
about that podcast? And then when they try and make films of Lolita, they mistake it, and they're like, "Well, it's from his perspective and whatever."
Yeah.
But the most amazing one, I think, is when it got released as a book. So it was really important to the writer that as people were reading it, they were experiencing the terror of like, this guy feels justified in it. Mm-hmm. Because like, if you think about it, that's a great skill to have, because then you're watching someone describe something to you and you're starting to develop a sense of like, not only is this person like a predator, but they're entitled in it and they're openly showing me who they are. And I guess the writer thought that they would all receive that, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it was really important to, who was the person that wrote that?
Vladimir Nabokov, yeah.
So it was really important to him that the book didn't glamorize young girls, and so he was like, the cover cannot be, it has to be neutral. It can't be like, here's a sexy baby, like it has to be this. And they were like, absolutely. And then he died, and then it was like, what about these red sunglasses and a lollipop? And it was just like, what?
I was crazy about, because I haven't read Lolita because I thought it was creepy, but I was like, it just like I just had read all that kind of late stage stuff, and then to hear at the start that it starts with him saying like the character is in I think a mental asylum or it has been committed post-script was like, oh well, how does that completely reframes the entire story. Like you're taking him at his word, and it's really I mean, the podcast is so deft in the way it like unpacks it all, but like it's so just kind of freaky, and like I never got around to reading it, but I do think Nabokov's an interesting guy, I think, because he clearly was a slight edgelord in that he was just like, I can justify anything with words or whatever. And I think that kind of that
but do you think he's justifying anything with words, or do you think he's setting up a false argument? Because then I think the point of that is, if you set up a false argument that's so clear, then you teach people to recognize a false argument when it exists, right? And you watch this kind of the documentaries we see at the moment coming out being like, this guy, is he good or is he evil? And it's like, then you get to see the person talking. And it's like, the more you can start to recognize a lie, the stronger a society you have, then whatever. Of course, the flip side of that is then people are like, that's conspiracy theories.
No, for sure. I think with him it was, I think it wasn't, he was just had a thing of like, his belief in prose and language was that he could humanize any perspective and make you relate to any perspective.
Oh no, I'm sure I don't know if that's true, because I know he was like,
is that not the thing? Oh yeah, no, maybe I'm misquoting. I can't remember.
Well, I mean, maybe that's true to a degree, but at least with that story, he was like, someone he knew had been like groomed or whatever, right? Okay, and the purpose was this is what it looks like.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get you to like come in with me and side with me, and then I'm gonna be like, no, like this was a mess, kind of thing.
No, totally.
Right?
That's a good point. I didn't realize it was like, I thought he saw it as like a writing challenge of how can I make this character approachable, but has done some of the most heinous things.
I mean, that's a pretty big challenge.
Maybe we're both right. You know what I mean? Maybe we're both making excellent points on this podcast. But I think it was which is a tricky one now, because especially with, I think, documentaries, we're slightly overly swimming in those kinds of takes of like, like those, like kind of like the Louis Theroux Nazi document or the neo-Nazi documentaries, where it's like, we know that they're human. We know these people that do those terrible things are human, and I think that's it's not unfamiliar to us to have those moments. It's a bit like when they people talk about like Bin Laden's what he had in the bunker and stuff. Like, can you believe he watched anime and all this stuff? And it's just like,
exactly.
Some animes are really good. It's good to know we'd have something to talk about. But
but the way of being like, these are humans too. But it depends on which way you look at that. If you're looking at it from the perspective of like, I get him, then it's like,
he's so me.
But if you're looking at it from the perspective of like, well, okay, then predators walk among us, how do I recognize it? Then that's a bit more powerful than just like,
completely.
What's this person's house look like? It's like,
that's true. And I think that's a good point. And I think you see that a bit with again, just to go back to the Lisa Taddeo, but with the way they have a bit of that with the professor who does the grooming. He's like, the way you can see, there's a bit, I can't remember start to end of the book, but because it was a while ago. But there's a lot of the kind of human. He has a lot of fear about. I think there's a bit where she goes to his house when he didn't say to or something, and he has this big like fearful, crazy moment. And they have a lot of that, and it's so. I think it's just really good writing where it's like. Yeah. So, firstly, this will sound silly, but you're reading. It's like I can't believe these people were made up. These were all made up people. Yeah. And like, secondly, just that it really hits that it's like. It's just all so fragile and vulnerable. And it's one of those books you come out at the end of. It's like, God, I don't even know what to do. And but there's a really nice, I think, by threading the needle through these different narratives, because also they cut to the woman who has the nervous system problem. Yeah. When her husband just won't have sex with her in the book, and won't touch her, or even like they're and so she starts having an affair. Yeah. And it's really heartbreaking because you can tell in the way she talks about it. She just wants to be loved in a way. It's not like she just had to, get some tail or whatever and go back. So it's like her relationship to sex was so much more emotional and connected in that way. That was quite. It's really very powerful and moving. Yeah. So it kind of frames it in this very it's. In this very human way. It's really like, but I just think that's like, that was the reason it stuck with me, I think, for so long, was like, that it was just so, and also you just know when you're reading a good book, when you just can't stop.
Yeah, and they're all backed into a corner in a way, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's, I think she has another book called Animal, which I haven't read any other books. I started strong with the first. I learned to read.
I didn't have time to read the others because I was busy pushing it down everyone else's throat, being like, "You got to read this."
I did The Hungry Caterpillar and then Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. That's actually because you mentioned before you had a bit. I was so obsessed with this book. I think I tried to mention it in like a throwaway line and a bit of stand up, but it was so not like. I think it was like the bestseller 1 year in like whenever it came out, and then just wasn't super relevant again. And I knew it was just for me, and it was really stupid. I could feel it because I was like, oh my God, like it's like a Lisa Taddeo character or something, and I could just see it's like that is for like, nobody. No. Yeah, exactly. That's for me only. And I was like, you should cut that. You should cut that out.
Do you know what's amazing though? If you did that and it was a political reference, people, even if they didn't get it, would laugh anyway because they wouldn't want to look like they're not up with politics.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like,
there is a weird
because I have when I first not me but a friend. But when I first moved to the UK, obviously I don't know any of the references. Like, and people, if someone said like so and so whatever, I found myself like once or twice just being like, because I knew it was the punchline. Yeah, and I knew it was meant to be something funny about politics, and I didn't want to be like, I don't know who that is, right?
Oh,
it's such a dumb like thing.
There's sometimes this way it doesn't. It's like it's even I think more removed from that. I think there's something about stand-up where people just want to, because it's so. I don't know. I want to say didactic, but I always use that word wrong, so I don't really know.
Okay, didactic means to teach. So like,
it's like kind of
how I'm explaining what the word means. Very
oh, sweet, nice. Yeah. So you're teaching me. That was very didactic of you.
Exactly.
But it was very like direct, and it's because it's communicating stuff quite directly. And I think I had a thing of I do this bit where I show this old headshot that I got that's really bad. Yeah. And I think I said as a joke, and I don't like. I kind of want to cut the bit because I don't. I think it's kind of a just a version of a not very smart. Which is not a bit I like, but it was basically saying that I looked like the kidnapper and the kidnapped at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
And people would laugh at that, and I remember just looking. It was like I don't even think it looks like that. Like it's just kind of there's just something about the. I think because once you get the
rhythm,
the rhythm of it, and it's just like they said something.
Yeah,
and like
if
you really step out of it, it's like what was that? That wasn't anything.
That didn't make sense.
It's a bit like you do see actually with. Sorry, I know I'm rambling a little bit with the political thing. I remember seeing. I went to a taping of the stand-up sketch show, I think, and it was. Russell Kane was hosting, and he was doing bits about like these woke East London dyed hair types, and halfway through I was like, I don't think this person exists. I think you made this person up to be upset about. And you see that in sometimes. Do you know Sebastian Maniscalco as well?
I love him. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Sebastian Maniscalco. We should have talked about my father, honestly, because I watched that the other night, the Robert De Niro movie that he's just made.
I thought you were like, we should have talked about my father, and I was like,
no, the movie about my father.
I was like, we can talk about your dad if you want.
I really want to talk about my dad. Real quick. I know it's a movie podcast, but I have to talk about my father. But it's such a good movie. And I could not believe, because we went into it a little bit, because with him, I love him, but I feel like there's a slight distance on my relationship, because sometimes he talks about stuff which I think like are just made up problems. Yeah, where he's talking about like a problem he had with someone in a line, and I was like, you have no real problems in your life.
What was happening was he was standing in the line imagining the problem.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. He's talking. There's a bit where, oh my god,
but that's because his storytelling is so fantastical that you think like you're in a different world kind of thing.
There's a really also because I feel like his physical and voice stuff is so unique, and it's so funny to me that he sort of funnels it into a pretty up and down, like, can you believe people today kind of voice, because it's just like, that's not your strong suit. You could just come out and be a dinosaur and I'd be down with it. You could just do that. And there's a bit where he's talking, me and my friends quote this all the time, because he goes like, it's like, I went into this like coffee shop and there's a guy cooking. He's got a half shirt on. And then he kind of hits the mic for like, whoa. That's almost like the whole bit. It's just like the guy was wearing like a crop top, and it just really, and it just made me laugh so much. And I think like, so I do think that kind of exists, where it's like there's enough associations and enough. I think people's political leanings are so not shallow, but like quick to get to. They want to affirm stuff so quick that you can say the bare minimum of like, if you said, you know, girl with purple hair with a fringe. She's I know that type.
Woke,
and it's like, but it's got to a point where I was like, I don't know if that's a real archetype anymore.
And also, but I like what I like on that one is the people that are always being like, oh, blue hair, shut up. It's just like, it's usually a man that's losing his hair, and it's like, dude, you couldn't dye your hair blue. There's like, that would be the last few strands would fall out if you did that. You know, in terms of like, you don't like the thing you don't like about someone else is something you don't like about yourself. You know, that completely. Concept in terms of being like, because then you would be angry, just like, what, she can just peroxide, she can put a color in on a whim and not lose the last of her hair. Like, I'm clinging down, like I'm wearing hats and I'm 40 just to not see my bald patch. Like, it's
they
like,
look in the mirror like in Silence of the Lambs, putting a blue wig on. It's so beautiful. It's
you can do whatever you want.
So I think there's I think there's definitely something in there. But we should start just trying to invent a new political class, I guess, of people that don't exist.
Be like, to just see if people are like, exactly, that
like,
guy.
I fucking hate those people. But I think so, and I think just with that, I just there's really, I don't actually have anything else to say about that book other than it's just such a good read, and it's such a and just that really. I love when stuff's so accessible. I tried to read Crime and Punishment. I mean, I did finish it, but I read Crime and Punishment. And that was a hard go. I had to really like, okay, I got to settle into who everyone's Russian family is and stuff, and try and get a sense
if you have to do a flow chart of the relationship, like my friend was like, you got to read 100 Years of Solitude, and I was like, okay, and then I was like, after a day, I was like, does she want me to be in 100? Like, I'm going to be like isolated? Like,
does it have a lot of lore? Does it have a lot of like backstory stuff?
I guess, but not just that. It was like all the names were. I'm going to cut this. So I was like, all the names were Spanish. I couldn't follow.
Esteban. Who the hell is that? What is that?
I can't follow Narcos either. Do you have anything you want to plug? No.
God, you know what? It's making me realize I don't have any major projects going, but I'd say just follow me on TikTok. It's Daniel _Mckeon, spelled McKeon. It's pretty good sometimes. Yeah. It's like when I feel like posting, it's pretty good. I have such an up and down relationship, and then just like I post most of my upcoming shows and stuff on my Instagram, which is the same handle. So just all of that on there. And I think,
do you still do your podcast that's about rich kids?
No, although you should listen to it because it was still good. Yeah. You know what happened with that was so funny. We were doing it audio, and I think we both was kind of falling out of love with making it because we'd done it for like 2 years. Like we did it. We had a good run of like monthly shows, and then everyone's podcasts were all video, and I was very lazy. I was like, I'm not going to learn how cameras work. And then so we stopped. But check it out. That's Rich on just at wherever you get podcasts on Apple Music and all that stuff.
And it's rich kids.
It's about rich people throughout time and just all the wild things they've done. So we did like a big bumper episode on Elon Musk, and there was another one on like Mansa Musa and all these really cool just like wild stories. I think we did my favorite ones about the French Revolution or the one about the Barclays brothers. That's a good jumping off point.
What was the second one? French Revolution or the Barclays?
Or the Barclays brothers, who own like all the banks. Like they own all the the Telegraph News.
That could come back around,
group.
you know, because you know how everyone's like, what do you think of the Roman Empire?
Oh, yeah.
You just need to start one that's like
totally.
French
We definitely, there's some Roman Empire stuff in there for sure.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect.
We definitely mention it at least. Or at least you can hear that we're thinking about it.
Well, clip it up, right?
Yeah,
now would be the time.
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, just check it. I think all of that stuff's on my social media. So
amazing.
check that out,
All right, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed it, please comment, please like, please subscribe. I know everyone says stuff like that, but it does really make a difference.